When it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there were many properties that were seen as sure things in one form or another. Avengers, Black Panther, certain solo Avengers movies like Iron Man, and the newly released Black Widow, and so on. One franchise that few expected to be so good was that of Guardians of the Galaxy. This was because the series was based on a niche comic from Marvel's history that only sometimes was relevant. But then, James Gunn got behind the script and camera and turned the characters into some of the most popular characters in the MCU. And now, their third movie is on the way. Allow us to show you Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, news, details, and updates. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. The exit. It's hard to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 without talking about the big elephant in the room. The firing of James Gunn. You see, James Gunn was 100% the reason that GTOG was as popular as it was via his writing, direction, and music choices. And it was one of the easy green lights to get when he asked for a sequel and then a third film. The problem, though, was that some people decided to do a cyber attack on Gunn and revealed some old tweets from his shock jock days, and that resulted in Disney getting antsy and firing him for it. The problem? The MCU fanbase and the Guardians of the Galaxy crew and cast rioted and basically demanded he be rehired. They eventually brought him back, but not before causing a whole lot of issues for themselves, including the film going from a potential 2021 to 2022 release date to being out in 2023. And of course, Gunn got hired by DC Comics and is getting ready to launch the Suicide Squad. So yeah, that happened. That's not all some fans should be worried about either. Final film in the set. Director James Gunn confirms that he plans for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to be his final film in the series. Being the main creative force behind the cosmic heroes, the filmmaker was integral in the final look and feel of the movies. But in the event that Marvel Studios decides to go beyond a threequel for the team, chances are that Gunn won't be helming the movie. For the longest time, MCU's solo films have come in trilogies, but that seems to gradually change as the universe moves to Phase 4. It all started with the confirmation that Chris Hemsworth and the God of Thunder will get a fourth film in Taika Waititi's Thor: Love and Thunder. This seemed like an anomaly considering that Thor: Ragnarok was beloved by many, and its sequel was driven by public interest. But now, there are also reports that Captain America 4 is also happening, with Sam Wilson as the new Star-Spangled Avenger following the events of The Falcon and The Winter Soldier. Given this, a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4 isn't really out of the realm of possibility. Previously, Gunn revealed that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will be the final outing for this selection of members. Whether or not that means that they will go separate ways after their upcoming mission remains to be seen. However, the director also promised that there will be at least one major character death in the blockbuster. While the director has long finished the script for the threequel, plot details have been tightly under wraps thus far. And since filming has yet to begin, that will likely be the case for a while. Karen Gillan talks about the script. Karen Gillan was someone who was shocking to fans in regards to being brought into the MCU because previously her biggest exposure was that of being Amy Pond on the Matt Smith run of Doctor Who. And then she literally went and shaved her head so that she could play Nebula, one of the daughters of Thanos, in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Now though, she's an essential character in the MCU and people can't wait to see what she does next. In an interview with Variety, Gillan talked about being starstruck joining the Avengers in Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, and entering the Marvel Universe as a casual fan before being sucked in by the comics. The actress also touched upon reprising her role in Taika Waititi's Thor: Love and Thunder and returning as Nebula under Gunn, the OG, for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 later this year. Gillan expressed that Gunn was really keen on making Nebula this well-rounded character and called his script incredible. While she is rightfully excited, some of her other co-workers aren't as for certain reasons. Dave Bautista issues. Dave Bautista was another shocking casting in the original movie, and yet he became the breakout star via his run as Drax the Destroyer, and continued to get fan love throughout the movies he was in. But if you were to ask Bautista his thoughts on how Drax was handled throughout the films and given his comic history, you're going to hear a different tune. I think they really missed the ball on Drax. He was such a great backstory. Selfishly, as a performer, that would have given me the opportunity to show different sides of Drax, emotionally and physically as well. Because if you notice, Drax, although he looks like a badass, you look at him and he looks terrifying. But Drax gets his ass kicked more than any other Marvel character. The whole Destroyer thing, they just threw out the window. People just fell so in love with the comedic side of Drax, they tapped into that. Then they tapped into it more, then they really dug a hole into it. But we missed a huge boat on that character, and I don't think it'll ever come back around. But I'm really just looking forward to finishing out this whole journey. To be clear, he loves the role of Drax. He just wishes there was a bit more to it. That role changed the trajectory of my life, Bautista told Collider. It's always going to be special to me. Now that I'm 4 films in, I really wish they would have invested more in Drax personally, because I think Drax has more of a story to tell. I think Drax has a really interesting backstory, which they dropped the ball on. That's no dig on Marvel. They had their slate. I know what they're focused on. That's what they have slated out. He also has been a staunch defender of James Gunn, and Gunn is the same for him, and said that, I get it. I totally support Dave in whatever he chooses to do. Dave also said that, due to his age, he likely won't do Drax again after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, further cementing that things might end after the film. Gamora. Arguably the biggest and most important storyline in the 3rd Guardians of the Galaxy film is the current situation with Gamora. Gamora died in Infinity War via Thanos in order for him to get the Soul Stone. But due to a timeline twist, or variant for you Loki fans, Gamora is now alive and walking around in the MCU once more. But this is Gamora before she met Star-Lord and the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So, she has no memories of them, nor of her falling in love with Peter. Peter, at the end of Endgame, did a search for Gamora but couldn't locate her. But we know that she's out there, and thus her fate is going to be something the Guardians go and look for, no doubt. Adam Warlock. There are many characters that the Guardians could go and deal with in the 3rd movie, and they've had an interesting selection, chosen overall from Ronan to Ego and the Sovereign. But the tease that's been going on for 2 movies now is that of Adam Warlock. He is a character to be feared, and James Gunn clearly has a thing for him, as he referenced him in both of his movies. But will this be the one he finally pulls the trigger and brings him to life? We'll have to see. The new universe. One thing that Avengers Endgame and subsequently with Spider-Man, Far From Home, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier is that the effects of the snap and the blip affected the whole planet in regards to Earth in terms of people going from having lost everything to suddenly having it back, but not in the way it was before. Given that the snap affected the entire universe, it would make sense that things are just as chaotic up there, and as such, the Guardians of the Galaxy could be tasked to help out with that. Which might mean that Captain Marvel could show up as well, as she was the galactic sheriff during that time period. And with old and new in the universe now, one has to wonder what might be waiting for the Guardians of the Galaxy as they go back to space. So, what do you think? What do you think of this look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and how it's shaping up to be something really special? Do you think that the movie will indeed close out things for the characters and that James Gunn will step away once it's finished? Do you think that there are more stories to tell with this bunch of a-holes? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the channel.